Chat, how's it going? Welcome in to Season 2 of Scrim School. I am incredibly excited about this. Our guests tonight are insanely technical. They break down the ins and outs of PvP, how to peek lanes, how to pay attention, not camping. Anything and everything you need to know on how to get better at PvP comes from these two individuals. So, if you have not talked to AscendantNomad or Shadow before, I highly recommend you ask any question you have in the chat. And Jesus, why is that so loud? Holy hell, my ears. I ask you to ask any question you feel. What just happened to the music? What is going on? Technology is failing me, chat. I don't know what's happening. I lost music to my headset. Sick. The 2-second rule. Yeah, exactly. The 2-second rule. All right, I need to mess with some stuff apparently because music just decided to die on me. Let's close that. Let's open this back up. I'm going to unmute Shadow and Nomad so we can get this going while I'm setting this up. So we will bring them in now. Gentlemen, how's it going?
It's good. How you
We
doing?
are having technical issues. Nomad, I'm putting this on you because the last time you were here, we had technical issues as well.
I mean, Shadow, I think you and I can both confirm with utmost confidence that this sounds like a skill issue to me.
Yeah, I take it back. You're right.
Yeah, this is weird. This is crazy. I usually don't have. I mean, my music decided to just completely shit the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Last time it was Discord that was failing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, music is back. We're looking good. I need to actually.
No, I think you were missing a few more excuses. Keep going.
My beard is not as full as yours. I just.
All of these are skill issues to me.
All skill. All right, let's get it popping though. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Who are you? Tell the class.
Well, hi guys. Yeah, sure. I'm Shadow. I make Destiny 2 videos on YouTube about basically everything, but I do focus on PvP and sometimes on how to improve in PvP. My videos tend to be longer form, technical and like analytical videos, as opposed to like hot takes and live commentaries. And yeah, I also create content on other platforms. I stream occasionally, stuff like that.
Okay. My name is AscendantNomad, and I call myself the Crucible Doctor because once upon a time, I used to make improvement videos on PvP. That hasn't really been the case lately. I've been transitioning more into weapon reviews and covering the game in a more general sense. But yeah, I think my specialty always focused on sort of the mental side of the game more so than the physical. And I used to make these videos on my game sense and positioning and the 2-second rule, and Shadow made this 40-60 rule, which was really, really good. But yeah, I'm a PvP YouTuber, and I've been around for a bit. Done YouTube, Twitch, and shitpost a lot on Twitter.
Shitpost a lot on Twitter is an understatement. I am working on turning you guys up a little bit because you're a little quiet. I mean, Nomad, I've got you cranked up to about 200. And,
More technical issues, I see.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens.
Discord output levels in settings.
You just need Discord overall. We were just before chat, and both of us sounded fine volumes. So.
I hear you perfectly. Stream, on the other hand, does not. So let's crank this up. All right, we're at 156 right now. If this doesn't work, I don't know what will. Sure, Mike. Yeah, I have it turned down a little bit so that I can adjust the alert because that has been taking out my ears every single time it goes off.
In fairness,
man.
The emotional damage.
Yeah. In fairness, it's a great alert.
It's a great alert, but it kind of takes away from the class. So let's get this little bit more tuned. I'm going to turn that down some. This is what happens when I don't have things set up for a year. So
It's been a while since we were last on. What's changed?
Oh, I know what changed. There was no content. I realized what the issue is. I'm on the wrong screen. Wow. Okay. Now we're looking good. Now the alerts won't be loud. I can crank everything up a lot more because it's not going to take everybody's eardrums out.
Yeah,
So
nice.
there we go. Everything's looking much better now. That's way better. Figured it out. Okay. Now we're good. All right, let's pick it up. I mean, there was no content for a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of had to sunset it for a little bit, I guess, is a good way to put it.
Yep.
It went on summer vacation. But now
Sure.
with Void 3.0 and new weapons and new quote unquote maps, I figured it was time to come back. Especially
Sure.
leading into, the next season in season 16 and into Lightfall. So I think I think it's a good time, and I think that having you two on, especially to talk about mostly Void 3.0, was a good way to kick it off.
Well, somebody made a Void 3.0 video, didn't they, Shadow?
Yeah, I made a Void 3.0 Hunter video, so I mean, I guess we could talk about I don't know, the overall changes to just Void across all the classes, although I'm mostly a Hunter person myself. And I don't know, I guess we could just talk about how the sandbox has evolved since the new expansion overall. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. I mean, this is huge because, a lot of people are getting back into Destiny with Witch Queen. And with the new subclass changes, it kind of shook up a lot of the sandbox more than we're used to. So let's definitely get into it. How are you feeling about Void 3.0?
I think it's definitely really interesting, and I really like the overall system compared to what we had before with the trees, because in the past it was you choose your tree and you choose a jump and a grenade or whatever, and then it's you're locked into that, and there wasn't really much customization. But what I think the main cool thing is with Stasis and then all the 3.0 systems, eventually we're going to get Arc and Solar 3.0. I mean, I think the main advantage with that is that you can really build craft and really, go into a certain specialization. If you want to do a suppressor build, you can, change a bunch of things in your fragments and your aspects, and you could use bombardiers, which is what I talked about in my video, and then you can just spam suppression on Void, and that was not possible before now. And you can really build into a specific thing and really customize your stuff to your playstyle, which I think is really cool, and it's moving in a good direction. And I think it's bringing us back a little bit to kind of how it was in Destiny 1, where there was just these columns that you could pick from, rather than having a tree that dictates your entire build. But overall, I think the leveling up of the customization is really top tier and allows people to explore more custom builds and express their playstyles better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm in total
absolutely.
agreement with that. I think Void 3.0 is definitely a market improvement over Void 2.0 or 1.0, whatever you want to call it. In terms of the Crucible, you are seeing a lot more annoying things to deal with. Like, for example, in competitive, you are dealing with pretty much, if it's not the entire team, then the majority of the team will be an invisible hunter of some description. And I do wonder how much of that is just a curiosity thing, how much of it is a fad, like people just trying things out, and versus how much of it is properly tactically because it's superior to the alternative options right now. I'm leaning still towards flavor of the month. It's a new thing.
Okay.
People want to try it out. People want to experiment it, for sure. And that's fine. I have no issues there. I still think, things like Top Tree Dawnblade is still superior in a PvP setting than an Invis Hunter, just because the super itself still has an activation time. It's more of a roaming super now with Mobius Quiver, but even then the projectiles have travel time, and there's no guarantee that you'd be able to generate an orb on a tether kill. You can still be killed out of it. But one thing that is definitely going to stay for the foreseeable future is Ward of Dawn, because that got changed to a tier 5 super. Now, I remember we were 3-0 up in comp with my fire team. We were rolling this team, and then this is very low comp, mind you. And I think they maybe got 2 or 3 kills between the 3 of them in 3 rounds. And at the start of the 3rd round, we had just gotten our supers. We were running non-void stuff, and they were running Ward of Dawn, and they got their super.
Yeah, I mean the tier changes in super are pretty drastic.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the
quite
thing that
scared
That's the thing that
trials.
concerns me the most is Ward of Dawn in PvP is shaping up to be a problem, and it's not. I mean, like, Wall of Radiance is more or less the same thing. It's also a tier 5 super. It's up all the time, but the difference is you could challenge a well with a team, especially if there's one person in it. You could shut down a well pretty easily with multiple options. With the bubble, it's not that simple, and sometimes all they'll do is stay in there, or they'll stay behind the bubble, waiting for you to pop out, or be in a lane where you're easily shootable, and then they'll just use weapons of light against you, and you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
The problem
Yep.
with Ward of Dawn is just that it slows the game down significantly, and that's the thing I'm worried about. But aside from that, I think the majority of the 3.0 changes have been largely positive. We're still in the discovery phase for a lot of the stuff in PvP because it has been a very PvE heavy season so far. I think all of us here have been like raiding and doing all the PvE stuff, the
Yes.
campaign. So we haven't seen and that's the majority of the player base too. We haven't actually seen too much diversity in PvP because the only people playing PvP are the people who think black and white is a good shader combo.
You mean the Amethyst Veil? Amethyst
Yeah, and
Veil,
and also soon to be the new Vow flawless shader too.
Yes, very true. Very true.
Somebody said it has elements of brown, which is very appropriate because it'll match their pants when they see a fusion rifle.
So the big thing is, I mean, obviously it's very, very prevalent in PvP right now with Void. How are you guys combating against it? What are you using tactically to beat? I mean, we can look at it from a 6's perspective as well as in a 3's perspective, especially with Trials coming back. How are you kind of combating against the infinite invis with Hunters or the overshields with Titans?
For the invis, I definitely believe in strength in numbers. Because if you have a buddy with you or several buddies with you, and an invis hunter sneaks up on you, worst case scenario, one of you dies, and then everyone else just annihilates him with a team shot. If you're off on your own and an invis hunter gets the drop on you, you're screwed. But
Yeah.
if you're in a team setting, if you have buddies near you who can clean them up, that's just so much easier to deal with. I think that a lot of players have developed this like rogue mentality, like playstyle, just over time, where they, think it's optimal in 6v6 to go play by themselves and then just get 1v6'd so
Yeah.
like a lot of the time. And that's just become so apparent with Void 3.0 in my opinion, because like if you're in a 1v1, one of you is invisible, like that's just such a huge advantage because you don't even know he exists and then you're dead. But if there's 6 people looking around, chances are at least one of you is gonna spot him, and then
Yeah.
once someone starts firing, everyone else is like, oh shit, there's someone here. It gets everyone's attention. So I think invis, like the biggest counter to invis is just pack mentality.
100%
Okay.
agree with that. For 6v6, that would be my strategy. I found myself partially because there's some really cool pulse rifles this season that I've been testing a lot of. The Syncopation, Peace of Mind, and the new Raid Pulse Insidia. So you naturally adopt a more passive playstyle by virtue of using a pulse.
Mhm.
And that gives you that safety in numbers, right? You want to be next to a teammate, you don't want to be alone, you don't want to be isolated. So that's one option. But when it comes to like Void Overshield Titans,
Those
this
are
is
tough.
hilarious. I found a strategy on day one I've been using since, and people don't know what to do with it. So I main a hunter. Hunter's got a pretty crazy new exotic called Renewal Grasps, which enlarges the Dustfield Grenade, gives them a huge crystal that you can get double resistance off. First, you get increased damage resistance from Renewal Grasps in a Dustfield Grenade, so that helps you deal with people who want to pot shot you from afar that you can't see, or just generally in everyday combat. You just pop a dust field on your feet and you've got damage resistance. People can't snipe you through it, which is great. And obviously you build into it through, I think it's Whisper of Chains, I believe it is, the stasis fragment that gives you damage resistance next to a crystal. So it can be manipulated to be really crazy. But what I've been doing, I haven't been using it for that purpose. I wait until somebody's put their Void Overshield Titan, their barricade down, then I throw the dust field onto them, which not only like completely neutralizes their ability to fight in that area because now there's a dust field on the barricade, but it stops them from running away too because the dust field radius is now like 15 meters. So it's really, really funny because every single time I throw the grenade, I wait for them to back up because they're still looking at me, backing up. They're not turning around running. They're just looking at me, just backing up. "Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine." And then they're not fine, and then they're dead. It's hilarious every single time.
I love that. How are you feeling? Because it sounds like you're kind of maining stasis, even in Witch Queen. How are you feeling with the way it ranks for Silence and Squall? Do you think it's fair where it's at a level 5, or do you think it's still a little too potent where it sits at now?
See, I think Silence and Squall is still like it's good for one kill. It's not good for multiple kills. I think the potency of Silence and Squall is vastly overrated. It's definitely a 6 of super, for sure. Because you can get more people, you can bunch them up, and in the hands of the right person and with the right situation, with people grouping up on a zone or lots of people running into a lane, it's fantastic. I think it's a great shutdown option, but again, like in the context of threes, it is a shutdown super, it's not an offensive super. I think having it up potentially twice in Trials match, that might be problematic, but we haven't seen that in Trials yet because Trials hasn't come around. I do think it will be something to consider, but honestly, if you're a hunter, it's really hard to look past the utility that invisibility gives you, especially if you're Spectral Blades now. Now you can dodge to go invisible as a Spectral Blades main, which you couldn't do before. So that's like it's a trade-off, isn't it? Then you also have the arc side of things, so you still have that one-hit sticky, which is just so useful. And then the solo you have throwing knives, and you just have Golden Gun, which is still one of the best shutdown supers in the game, and offensive if you play it right. So I think there's all good options really. I'm just using stasis because I was really intrigued by Renewal Grasp, and I think I'll use that in our first weekend of Trials coming up.
Okay. So you are going to be running Stasis Hunter in Trials.
Yep.
I think they did a really good job of like making Void 3.0 in a way that like you can still use other things. It's not like Void is like the new OP, you have to use this today type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's certainly quite strong, but at the same time, like you can still easily get away with being Golden Gun or Stasis. Or whatever, you know?
You really, Bobby, you should get some YouTubers on the show and just call them out on this clickbait culture that we have going on YouTube. Just people, making Void 3.0 videos saying this is the best build ever, right, Shadow?
Yeah, right, Shadow?
Yeah, 100%.
It's almost like I have 2 YouTubers on here right now. It's weird.
Wow. Where?
Maybe this
where are these YouTubers?
Maybe this was a bait to say that, 1, Nomad, you're a fake YouTuber because you're not making the clickbait videos. And 2,
Man,
Shadow, quit with the clickbait.
No, I really, the levels of clickbait that I have compared to other people, it's not even on the same spectrum, bro.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I literally, like, clickbait is, for long form content, clickbait is literally a bad idea. Like, it will screw you over, so I don't clickbait. If I say something in my title, it's because I really believe it, so. And I do think that the new Void build is one of the, like, if you have a really good Void 3.0 build on Hunter, it's one of the best builds Hunters have ever had. But I'm also not saying that other options are unusable because it's so OP. I never said that. So sometimes it's just the subtle distinctions. Sometimes people can misunderstand.
Yeah, with long form content, basically you're trying to get people to stay for the entirety of the video instead of a quick 2-minute, this gun is insane, watch it now, get it, play it, that kind of thing. You will kind of want people to run through.
Yeah, it's also, at the end of the day, if you're a content creator, you want to make content that's valuable and people like, so if you make content that, even if people watch the whole thing and they click on it, like, it's going to suck if you make content that nobody likes and people just, they're like, oh no, another video from this guy, I hate this guy, you never want to be in that situation. So I'm always going to try to make content that people find valuable.
We were just talking about this in our previous meeting, just about in this, like, early stage of a new season, a new expansion, really. There's a lot of questions floating around. People want to know what's the best thing, what's this, what's that, what does this do, what is that? And in the race of creation, one of the side effects is that people want the views, people want to get out in front, people want to take advantage of the curiosity that a lot of eyeballs brings, that a new expansion brings, really. It's just a lot of eyeballs on YouTube all of a sudden. So they are going to title things in a very clickbaity kind of way. They are going to rush to make videos because they were the first, or they found something very, very quick like nobody else has found yet. And in the process of that, like, some opinions and some conclusions will be formed that are not well researched, that are not well studied, that aren't contextualized, and then because the first person said that, then it's treated like gospel, and then it's spread around the community, and that's something that everybody kind of has to be afraid of, especially in the PvP side of things. I find that half truths are then perpetuated as absolute fact a lot of the time. So people will say Void 3.0 is OP, and the reality is no, it's not. There are counters to it. You just have to find them.
Speaking of counters, I know we talked about sixes, but my music died again. I don't understand. We'll just keep going as it is. How do you feel that Void 3.0 is going to affect in threes?
Well, I've played competitive a little bit, but I think I will have a better opinion on this once we play trials for a few weeks. Because I've played mostly sixes since this all came out, other than like one day of competitive. But I do think that the invis is gonna be prevalent in 3v3, and since you can't, since it's common to be more alone in 3v3 simply due to the less people being on the map, it could potentially be a little bit more of a problem, but we'll have to see. I think my statement from earlier that you can, everything's viable, I think that's still true. But I definitely think Void Hunters are going to be pretty popular.
See,
See that.
I agree with that. I think the big thing that Void 3.0 did is that it made the base utility a lot more accessible and a lot more easier to build into. So one of the key things that people were doing towards the end of last season, I think Kami popularized this, but it was definitely a strat that's been floating around for forever, was the radar manipulation. Put on Graviton forfeit, dodge to go invis, throw a melee smoke bomb somewhere else to trip somebody's radar, and there you go. When you're invis, you're off the radar completely. So that element of things is still going to be there. Vortex, spike grenades, and I think suppression grenades too. There is a void aspect that prolongs that duration. I think that's something that people are going to be looking into as well, especially if they want to use spike grenades, either offensively, like I like to do, or for pure zone control. That is something they can think of as well. Having an aspect that allows you to control areas is very, very huge, and I don't think there's a lot of that right now for anything that isn't stasis right now. So the utility of Void has gone up by several degrees, and just because of that, just because of the flexibility it provides, you have to ask yourself, like, if you're a hunter, are you okay with living with a tether super, which is not the best super in the game? Are you okay with the trade-off of going Spectral Blaze but then only getting your super once per match? Are you okay being a Nova Bomb main or going Nova Warp? Do you want to learn Nova Warp? Do you want to be running Astrocide Blink or Astrocide Verse with Blink? As a Titan, are you okay with just being the bubble guy? Like, these are the fundamental decisions here are, is this a playstyle I'm familiar with? And if so, do I want to do this over something that I'm more familiar with? Because at the end of the day, your performance in Crucible is 100% influenced by how familiar you are with your gear and your kit. I mean, ideally now would be the best time to practice your 3 strategies for trials ahead of people finding the most broken stuff using that, and then we have this stale meta for the last like 6 weeks of the season.
I agree with that, and also I think there's also a learning curve of playing against invisibility and playing against Void 3.0. Because, like, I don't know, I feel like invisibility is actually fairly complicated, and a lot of people don't really understand how it works. And like, both using it and playing against it, like, you're gonna learn better strategies to adapt to it and better strategies to exploit it more. So I think as time goes on, it will kind of evolve a little bit as to how people are using it, how people try to play against it.
I'm definitely enjoying seeing the people that I know have not run anything Void related because they just panic. I had a guy, because I've played quite a bit of comp, just to kind of mess around, see how it feels, stuff like that. I had one dude that was sitting on point on conversions in Invis, and he thought I couldn't hit him. And he sat there for a good 2 seconds that I was watching him down scope. Didn't move, didn't attempt to shoot me, nothing. So I just 3-tapped him and walked away with the win.
Like, he thought he couldn't shoot you?
No, he thought I couldn't see him at all.
Oh.
He was fully invisible.
He was just sitting there invisible on the point, just sitting.
That's wild.
And didn't move. And he's like, it was one of those like where kids used to cover their eyes and they're like, you can't see you.
Yeah.
I can't
Object
see you. You
permanence.
can't see me. Yeah.
Yep.
He sat there for a full 2 seconds that I sat there with him in my scope, and I was like, okay, I'll tap him now. And I just tap, tap, tap. And he still didn't shoot me or move after I shot him 3 times. I was like, I don't
Amazing.
understand.
Amazing.
And then like the people are putting way too much confidence in the overshield. I'm learning.
Yeah, I think so. I think people use that as a get out of jail free card. But when it's the best utility I've seen it being used so far is you get the kill on a neutral setting, you do what you need to do. But then once you have the numbers, then pop the overshield, and then you're screwed. Then the other team is screwed. They can't fight back. They have to run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the shield is great and utilized, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Utilizing the shield to recover your health in the middle of a gunfight is, I think, the biggest benefit for it.
As long as you don't try to pop it while you're getting shot, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to break line of sight to
The
do
animation is kind of long, so if you try to pop it while you're actually getting shot in a gunfight, that's rarely going to work out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if like you're low and you slide around the wall and then you pop, and then you slide back out, all of a sudden you have full health and the person you're gunfighting against does not.
Yeah, I think the main thing that's ridiculous about the overshield thing is that, you know, you can just pass, even if you're not the Titan, if you're just like a teammate of the Titan and you just pass by his barricade and then just go around your normal business, it's like now you have this insane overshield. I mean, it's not that, you know, it's not like a ridiculous amount of HP extra, but you know, it can change the time to kill of like a 3-tap hand cannon or something, and then, you know, it kind of screws with other people, and at the very least it freaks them out because they're like, this guy's glowing and he has more health than usual, and then they get scared and then they miss their shots or something. But I don't know. I mean, if it needed any balancing, I'd say maybe like if you go a certain amount of distance away, it takes away the overshield, because I don't know, you can just kind of roam around with it forever, which is kind of interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I just see way too many people pop it before a gunfight, thinking that it's going to give you a plus 100, plus 200 on your health.
Yeah,
in all actuality, it's just a plus 40.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can still be a good idea to use before a gunfight. I mean, especially if you know that this person's going to push you, right? If you're like capping the zone or something, or capping the zone in Control or capping the zone in Trials. If someone has to push you and you have a barricade and you have extra overshield points, like that's huge. That's such a big advantage, you know.
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
because you can create your own cover. You know, like the zones are rarely in protected areas, so if you can create your own cover with the barricades and get an extra HP, you know, that's pretty notable.
Absolutely. So we got 2 questions. Let me scroll back up. Spider says, what subclass do you think will be on top when they include Arc and Solar 3.0?
I mean, that's really hard to say, just because you know they really completely changed the way that Void works, and I assume they're going to do the same thing with Arc and Solar. So it's basically impossible for us to actually make a prediction that's accurate about what is going to be on top after they change everything and like literally redo how all the abilities work, you know, and add fragments and all that. So
yeah, I'm with Shadow on that one. I think that's really that's a near impossible thing to answer.
It's an interesting question though.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, if it follows the same trend as like Stasis and then Void did.
Well, Stasis was brought in as a completely new thing altogether, so that one wouldn't track. Void before was near, I'm going to say for Hunters at least, it was near useless in PvP, aside from the Spectral tree.
I was going to say, Spectral's OP.
Spectral's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, the only Void subclass, the only Void class that was any decent at all was Ward of Dawn in PvP, but that's because it gave you weapons of light and 3 orbs. Like the melee bash had huge, like the shield bash had a lot of hit rage problems, and just there were better offensive options on both Titan and Warlock, and certainly on Hunter that was the case as well. But now it's like they're completely different. They're some of the best options, period, because like who would have seen Titans getting a Void overshield, right?
Right.
As part of the rework, and we don't know what the equivalent would be for Hunters as well. So at this point, you know, my hope is that Solar gets to be top dog for a little while, especially with Solar 3.0 coming out, not next season or season after or something like that. So I hope Solar gets to be top dog, but I'm and I'm not looking forward to seeing what happens to Dawnblade with Solo 3.0. But yeah, I want to say Solar, but we can't be sure at all.
I mean, are you including that from just a hunter perspective, or are you including that from all three classes?
No, from all, because I still think today that Dawnblade, top tree Dawnblade is the best super in the game. And, you know, for 6s you go bottom tree Dawnblade, you get Phoenix Dive, and you get that elongated super based on kills, right? And then you have Wall of Radiance, which is Wall of Radiance. For
Right.
hammers, hammers are still one of the best supers in the game in both 3s and 6s. And Golden Gun is Golden Gun, you know, that it is what it is. But for the rework, those things are only probably just going to get even better.
Interesting. Because I mean, I played Hunter forever, and I just recently switched last season to Titan, bottom tree Arc Titan. For knockout, for shoulder charge, for all that fun stuff. I honestly think that almost think that in a 3 setting, Arc's going to be the most potent one. Maybe
Probably,
not for warlocks, but for Titans and for hunters.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's so many possibilities, but again, it's like we can sit here and the whole podcast
Right.
could be just about speculating, right? So.
It literally takes one fragment that's a little overtuned to just make the whole thing out of proportion.
Shake the entirety of it. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Exactly. All right, so we have another one. Hold on, I have to scroll back up to it because I lost it. Jane Easy says, do you still see people running with higher energy fire and taking charge?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a free 20. I mean, you have to spec into your helmet mods now to get that orb generation, but why wouldn't you? Especially considering that quick charge still works with rapid fire fusions. You dummies.
Yeah.
Like you get like it's now a couple of the fusions, the Deliverance and the Likely Suspect, both roll with now Deliverance is a precision, but anyways, back to the point, they roll with successful warm up, which reduces the charge time specifically.
Such a cool perk.
And
it's so fun.
you can get back-to-back kills without really trying in 6v6. So that will proc quick charge. Then you have high energy fire already, so that's at plus 20%. And if you run, let's say you run Likely Suspect with as your energy, you get your quick charge, you get high energy fire, you swap to an Ice Luna with Harmony, you're doing 101 to the head.
Oof. Yeah, that's 120 with a damage perk.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oof.
So it's like the build potential is so high for Charge Relied still. It's just that Wells are kind of flavor of the month right now for PvE.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean there's the whole thing with Masterworks and orbs and stuff, but there's still other ways to get orbs. There's still other mods. I mean you can just put on the new mods, right, to give you orbs on kills. So yeah, it's definitely still a thing. Maybe not quite as extreme as it used to be, but it's not like it went away.
So we have another one here, and because we were talking weapons and fusions, first we'll go with mine. And what weapons are you feeling are going to stand out in PvP this season a lot more than?
Dire Promise, Felwinter's Lie.
Don't say that. That's been the same forever. You're not an Amethyst Veil hunter. Stop it.
No, but I watched Death Note once. Does that count?
I mean, Death Note's decent. I would lean more towards like if you said you watched like Your Lie in April or something like that.
I heard the kids call that mid.
Oh, Nomad with the
I don't know what I'm saying. Don't listen to me. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, I mean really though, what stands out?
What stands out right now? Shadow, you want to go with this one first?
Yeah, sure. So my next video that I'm working on is about my top picks for the new weapons. Forget about the old ones. I know there's still plenty of good old ones, but the video topic is about the new ones. There's some interesting options. I think the Silicon Neuroma is one that not many people have a good roll on yet, and it's quite good. It's low zoom, kind of in a lot of ways reminiscent of like Beloved back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a high impact, so obviously different archetype, but I'm a big fan of Silicon Neuroma. It can get really good stats, really good perks. Overall feels amazing. I hopped on someone's account who had a snapshot opening shot roll, and yeah, it feels awesome. So you're a sniper and you can get your hands on a Silicon Aroma, like go for it.
I loved it back when recovs weren't frowned upon. I had that role, or I did a recov on that role, and it felt incredible. Yeah. So I was really glad with Sunset.
Father's Sins.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's another interesting one. I mean, even lower zoom, right? It's like the new version of Twilight Oath, and also, by the way, Twilight Oath is awesome. You can get it from focusing your umbrals now in the helm. So, yeah, I kind of put those in similar categories, even though Twilight Oath isn't new. I'd say that Father's Sins and Twilight Oath are both awesome options right now. They recently increased the aim assist of really low zoom snipers like those ones, so they've become more viable as of late, and they're really fun to use if you want to have like an aggressive sniping playstyle. The long zoom ones are, they're always going to be like okay, but I mean, if you want to really get up in people's faces, like the fast firing low zoom ones are insane for that type of playstyle.
Yeah, I'm going to double down on that. I'm going to say rapid fire snipers are going to make a little bit of a resurgence because they've changed the way they feel, and they feel, I think, generally better.
They feel insane.
Yeah. So Shadow's the sniping main, so listen to him.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Shadow?
Yeah, so if you have to get the thing with rapid fires is you have to get a high zoom roll. If you don't have high zoom, the aim assist drops off and it feels like shit at like actual sniper range. So if you have to get a decently high zoom roll, and other than that, if you just go for like the best perks, snapshot's a constant good option, and then opening shot as well. And yeah, they feel much better than they used to. So if you like snipers, definitely go try them out.
So we're talking like Praetor's Revenge, Ikelos, sniper rifle.
Yeah, except Praetor's is not a low zoom. But yeah, for the fast firing ones, yeah.
Okay.
Personally, I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Praetor's, just overall, but I think it's like, I don't know, I'd probably give it like a B+ tier or something like that.
Sure. So
Even
for me,
Praetor's Revenge, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. No.
So for me, I would say Peace of Mind specifically. I mean, I am kind of like shilling this weapon big time because I just made a video on it. But it has 19 zoom, which is something you've only seen on Time Worn Spire before. And it's 19 zoom with stability perks plus recoil direction perks plus damage perks. Like it like once you build into it and once you craft your own, there is a conversation to be had about Peace of Mind potentially being the best pulse rifle in the game for PvP. It's far better than the Darkest Before, and people love the Darkest Before. So that could be an option. That could be a standout for me. I think Syncopation is also something worth considering too, because it can roll with Hipfire Grip. And Hipfire Grip got a huge buff this season. Or was it last season? One of the two. Anyways, Hipfire Grip feels amazing. You can hipfire this 390, shut down shotguns, and then, go back to ADS and lane down a lane. 390s themselves don't have the best damage profile, but they offer a safety in familiarity. They're very versatile. They suit a lot of different kinds of players. If you are a top 1% player, or even top 5% player, you're going to hit the ceiling of this weapon pretty quick. But for the vast majority of the player base, I'd say Syncopation it's kind of one of the best training wheels guns out there right now, especially when you reload. You get that sort of synergy where you get less flinch. Like it's gravy. It's a really nice feeling pulse. Other weapons I think will stand out. I think Likely Suspect is going to be in everybody's inventory by virtue of being a rapid fire fusion that you can craft, especially considering it rolls with Adagio as well, which is just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say
Funnel Web and Submission.
Funnel Web and Submission. I would say Submission because again it can be crafted. And the new Raid Pulse Rifle, Insidious. That's going to be huge too. And Thoughtless, the kinetic sniper from the PsyOps Battleground. That's going to be big on everyone's list as well.
So I'm personally not a big fan of the Thoughtless. I think it's not bad, but I just think there are better new snipers than that one.
Sure. But it's craftable. It's craftable. It's a 90 RPM, like these things have value.
Yeah, like I said, not worthless, but personally, I wouldn't put it on the very top of my list. And for me, I tried it out. I tried out a really good role on a friend's account, and my main problem is with it is that the reticle kind of bounces up and down, and this was an issue with older snipers a lot more than current ones. But this one has that problem again, which is really obnoxious because if you strafe while you shoot, which I like doing, it'll literally throw off your entire shot because it'll like, bounce and either go up above their head or into their chest rather than, where you want it to actually go. So
I have a question. I have a question for Shadow. Shadow, did you ever like Alone as a God?
Yeah, back in the day.
Okay. Because there's something about it that feels familiar to it.
Oh, interesting. I don't know.
Maybe it's the reticule.
Yeah, it could be the reticle. I mean, they're both really small, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a lot of options. I think the biggest thing is, do you feel like the craftability pushes any of the weapons into a higher rank, I guess?
Yeah.
Because they're easier to be crafted and you're not farming for hours to try and get them?
Yeah, I mean, straight up, it increases the accessibility to the role that you want, which is huge. And
exactly,
also just like there's a same weapon, craftable or not craftable. I mean, obviously, craftable is going to be better because you can go for exactly what you want. So, I think the status of a weapon being craftable is amazing. Just it doesn't hurt it in any way. So
exactly, and I think it definitely, like for a lot of these weapons, you are going to need to craft them to make them viable. Like for me, like. The next video I'm working on is the Insidious Pulse Rifle from the raid, and that like rolls with a bunch of different interesting perk combinations, the majority of which are suited for PvE. But once you get Rapid Hit on it, you craft Rapid Hit, you craft Rampage or Vorpal or something else that could be used in PvP. Suddenly it becomes
so good,
right? But I would argue it's almost mandatory for that pulse.
Yep.
But you start crafting like if you have like heating up. And I don't know, one for all. That's going to feel like crap in the Crucible. But you have Rapid Hit and Vorpal, or Rapid Hit and Rampage in the Crucible, it's a completely different gun. Completely. And so, because of that, like, you're going to have a few different guns around about that are sort of like, you'd think they were for PvE, but then you craft them and you make the role that you want, you get the perks you want, and the barrel perks or the sights or the high cal or accuracy, basically craft it to be what you would like it to be. And suddenly, it's this super versatile weapon that can be used both in PvE and PvP. A huge example of this is Syncopation. Syncopation with Enhanced Frenzy, it still takes 5 seconds to proc, but then it stays in Frenzy for 7.5 seconds versus 5 seconds. And that's the difference, like, from my early testing, it's like the difference between a Rampage stack and Kill Clip. It's a huge difference in feeling. And then suddenly you're two-tapping with these once you have Frenzy going. So it's definitely like crafting's brought a lot of depth to the table, and we're gonna be spending pretty much the next year just going through different weapons and going through different roles and like trying out the different possibilities. Sure. And I think for me that's gonna be a huge focus for me and my content. It's just like figuring it all out and finding which ones are absolutely worth keeping and which ones aren't worth the time at all. But for a lot of people, the question is, do I want to craft? Do I don't want to craft? Most people are going to say, I don't have the time or the knowledge or the effort to give a shit about this, and that's fine because all the craftable roles can drop randomly anyways. So, and I think we're in for a really interesting season of Destiny for sure.
No, I love that. I have messed around with the crafting table a little bit just to get the I call it the Regnold shotgun. Kind of. I mean, I'm a shotgun main. I play Titan, so. I kind of like to get up in their face. I know. I still refuse to admit that I'm a Titan main. I've got 3,000 hours on a Hunter, and I think, 200 hours on a Titan, 300 hours on a Titan now. So I'm dodging the main statement, but I think the crafting table's cool. I think not having a larger vault space for all the materials that we need kind of sucks. And the way to get the materials is kind of rough, but
yeah, the system could definitely be better for sure.
I 100% agree. Let's dive into the next one. Which perks this season that came out are standing out for you guys more than our base ones that we've had forever? Are there any that are
successful warm up?
Okay.
The one that makes it charge fast.
Yep.
Yeah, that's huge. It's really fun on bows if you get like Archer's Tempo and a successful warm up, and it's like, oh, now your bow fires like a scout rifle. Like it fires really fast. It's so fun. So I mean, I don't know if that perk is like number one best option, but it's really fun when you get it. And I don't know, I love going on sprees in 6v6, so anything that helps me do that better is going to be something that I enjoy, whether it's technically OP or not. I always love like damage perks for that reason, even though like a damage perk might not be your number one choice for like consistency in threes or something.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a fun perk. I don't know, what are some other ones?
So for me, I would definitely say adaptive munitions has caught my eye for a lot of the stuff, but that's all PvE oriented. It just makes everything a little bit more flexible in terms of what you can run for endgame stuff. In PvP, I would definitely say successful warm-up's the most intriguing, but I'm loving the fact that perpetual motion has made its way onto pretty much every new weapon out there.
That's cool, yeah.
And also the origin perks, origin traits of a lot of the new weapons too.
All the origin traits. I mean, it's just an extra thing to have on your gun. I mean, it's not going to hurt you ever, and it's just cool extra stuff to have. So I mean, I wouldn't say that any of them are like game-changing, weapon-defining perks that are going to make it OP or anything. No, obviously not. They're just an extra nice thing to have on your weapon, which is really cool. And I think people are still kind of recognizing what they do. A lot of people are still kind of confused on what they do, or they just don't know, or they haven't read them, or they understand that it gives extra resilience, but they don't know how much, stuff like that. But I think as people become more educated on it, I think it's going to be like, I don't know, pretty cool thing to have on weapons.
I think the most interesting one out of all the new perks that definitely is one that's going to take some time to understand and master for sure is Focus Fury. Where the perk is dealing half the magazine as precision damage, grants this weapon bonus damage. The shot count is reset whenever the weapon is reloaded or stowed. And that's like, for compulsive reloaders, having Focus Fury on your weapon is going to train you to stay in the fight longer, because the more damage you deal as precision, the more you get rewarded. Basically, it's a skill perk in a way. If you can call, leaving aside the obvious skill in Destiny 2, sentiment.
That's a good one.
But like, generally speaking, you go. It's a perk that rewards you for being good, and I really like that as a design philosophy.
Okay. What of the origin perks is standing out for you guys the most?
Synergy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I agree. Also, the raid one is interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say it's that great, but I do love it for PvP strictly. That's what I'm referring to right now. I think it is cool that like you can get a few kills and then dodge, and it's basically you have Worm Husk. I think that's cool. I did some testing. It's 10 health per kill, so nice. if you get 3 kills and then you get into a gunfight later on and you get hit and then you dodge to cover, it's going to regen 30 of your HP. So I mean, not necessarily going to change the game, but it could probably save your life. So
definitely.
might as well have it. It's cool.
It'll help you get back into the fight.
Right, exactly. That's what I noticed as well. Like if you get a kill, you take a little damage, and then you want to go on to the next guy, a lot of times it's like, all right, well, now I'm gonna sit here and wait for my health. But with this perk, you can just reload, and it will give you a lot of times enough of your health back that you can comfortably go into the next fight. So it does increase the pace of the game for a lot of people, and I think that's awesome.
Oh, shout out to sorry, not an origin perk, but shout out to Steady Hands as well. It's basically OG quick draw. Like you will get fast swap speed. You will get pretty much, like, I think it's a plus base 50. If you get a kill, you get 50 to your handling, so your stone swap speed for all your weapons is now super quick. And then on top of that, it's 100 handling, so you can snap in. And it's quick draw dependent on getting a kill. So it's really good for the shotgun apes. And it's really good for sixes, I would say, just to have that flexibility as well. I think Steady Hands is going to be a very sought after option for that. But going back to origin perks, Soul Drinker, like Shadow's saying, is very, very clutch. Although it's definitely GM oriented and raid oriented, in terms of like getting tangible benefits back for your work. To me, I think Suro Synergy is definitely the play that I would love on every single one of my weapons, because getting that reduced flinch, I don't know how much it is, but it is noticeable. It's just lovely.
I mean, both of those are absolute gems that I don't think people have really realized yet.
Yeah, it's gonna take time.
Video idea. Video idea.
Okay.
You know, YouTubers.
Yeah, sure. New perks tier list for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Shadow's already working on it right now. That's why he's being quiet. I knew it.
Yeah. Tabbed out right now, writing my script, bro.
writing all these down as notes for later. I'm excited to see how everything plays out. I mean, a lot of it's situational, which is kind of nice in the Crucible. It's not, you're not just stuck to just hand cannon, just shotgun, just sniper rifle, you know. But because this is a school of Scrim and we're wanting to teach people, Nomad, you run a Scrim, correct?
I used to do it personally. Yeah, I used to run a Scrim community and sessions and everything, and it's still there and it exists, but I definitely have been stepping back from it in recent times just because I've been trying to put more time and effort towards making content.
Sure. Have you and Oath visited any of the rules for this season yet, or is that still tabled?
No, we are going to be doing our own pass on the rules this week or next week. We've just been all in with Witchqueen, PvE, and just like enjoying the raid and just taking our time. Because again, like with rule sets, when it comes to making rule sets, especially in the wake of an expansion, you really do need to let things sit before you start banning things. And you start just whipping things out. It's like, all right, hunters are banned because they can invis now. It's like, what? Or something ridiculous like that, you know? Like I'm pretty sure that they're gonna ban things like no successful warm-up on weapons or something. You know, like we've had some very questionable bans in the past coming out of the Scrim community, and you know, you played
I'm with you on that.
You play the game the way you want to play, power to you. But for me, the way I would love my scrims to go generally is, you know, let's have an ethos here. What is the point of the scrim? Is it just a pure aim competition? Great. There's a little game called Counter-Strike if we want to do that.
Ban everything.
Right. Or do you want it to be like you could do like class specific scrims? You want to do Titan scrims? That'd be very interesting. Do you want to do, you know, the best Destiny player? Okay, just ban the stuff that's the most annoying. So when it comes to rule sets, I always find, sorry to go on a tangent, but I always find it's interesting to have a goal in mind for what you want your scrims to be. Absolutely. rather than just say this and this is gone because I don't like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I do. And we kind of tested some of the Void 3.0 perks before this, because obviously after this we're going to go jump into some actual gameplay with the goal of teaching.
Yeah.
So the ban list is pretty light. I mean, the things that are banned on it are like I think we settled on 1 Void per team.
Okay.
And
yeah, that makes sense.
And then 1 aspect.
Okay.
That way you're not stacking, you know, the double overshields or the double invises or anything like that.
Sure.
But as far as that goes, I mean, I think we even talked about like Child of the Old Gods as being okay.
Yeah.
It's situational, but it's okay.
Yeah, definitely. You can shoot it down and it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And if people know to shoot the orb for the Child of the Old Gods, you can get out of it faster. That's the biggest thing that people, I don't think, have realized yet. But it's obviously the standard defenders are out. The last words, the
sorry, Shadow.
DMT. You know, the last word, the DMT. Last word. Things like that are a little bit more obnoxious for the play set. I don't know. We were kind of playing around with it. I was hoping that you had visited a little bit so we could compare notes.
No, none at all. I do find the DMT ban a strange one ever since they reduced the RPM to 130. But if it's still a problem, I'd trust that, and we'll definitely do our own testing on that.
Yeah. I mean, they only reduced it in ADS, if I remember right.
They reduced it hipfire.
Oh,
so hipfire, yeah, ADS is the same. Hipfire, they changed it from 150 RPM, so the same as like lightweight hand cannons, to 130 RPM. But it's still behaviorally very, very strong, right? And it will still kill a super relatively quickly, but it's just not as uncounterable as it used to be.
Right. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, and beyond that, I think I put notes down. Hold on. I think there was only like one or two more that were a little different. And the reason why we visited is because it was I looked at the Face It rules. My God, man. It's like full classes are banned. They're like no void whatsoever. Yeah, they made it as a no void whatsoever.
So they're scared.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of crazy. I used to play Face It like occasionally when it first came out, but it has devolved so hard. Like I will under no circumstance recommend that anyone plays that anymore. It's kind of sad, but yeah, it's like it's not moderated. It's hardly moderated. I mean, no offense to the moderators, but it's not an easy job. But like there's so much toxic stuff that goes on there, and literally nothing happens about it. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the big ones that we had were this season. We said high impact fusions are okay only without high impact reserves. So you can run the fusion without the reserve.
I mean, it's still a 1,000 millisecond charge. It's a 1 second charge.
I don't think high impact fusions are that good at all, honestly.
No, exactly.
But like this is the thing is like we're gonna sit here and disagree about the minutia. So it's always important. Like you have your rules, you stick to them, and you work with to the best of your abilities within those rules.
Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, on a personal level, as long as there's a clear ethos and a reasoning behind it, then I'm okay with the ban on certain things. As long as you can explain it.
Agree with you.
Yeah.
I absolutely.
But like banning Void playing out, that's stupid. I'm sorry.
It's wild. It really is. I saw it and I was like, I can't even do this.
Huge chunks. Anytime that you take huge chunks of the game out of the game, it's bad in my opinion. Because you're not playing the game anymore, dude. You're playing something else.
Exactly.
And I love those ban lists. Like they try and contain it all into one graphic, and it's just like it's like reading terms and conditions, dude.
Yeah, dude.
That's basically what's happening. Is I went through and read the Face It one, and no offense to any Face It players in here, it was the lettering right now is at like 4 font to fit it on a single graphic.
Wouldn't it be just simpler? Wouldn't it be simpler to just like make a list of the stuff that is allowed?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's getting to that. It's like that's basically where it's going. I think the big ones that like we did that were a little different were we're allowing a pulse per team.
Okay.
Just no Desperado on the pulse.
Okay.
I feel like that's a fair midway point for people to learn because the goal
they don't know about kill clip.
Shh. They
kill clip smart.
I'm not a big fan of reloading damage perks in 3s.
Do you play Hunter?
That's true. Dodging helps and counts for it. Absolutely.
I main Dragon Shadow and reload perks, so it's in my opinion, they're nuts.
Yes, absolutely. I've always found that I'd prefer a Rampage over a kill clip any day.
Yeah, that's fair.
For the stackability without having to reload so that you don't have to disengage, dodge, whatever for those that aren't running Hunter.
Yeah, it totally depends on your loadout and just, what situation you're in.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question and then we'll jump into scrims because I know you guys have some content to make with this new season. So,
yes.
The last question I have for you all is game sense, map awareness, the big one, right? How did you get the game sense that you have? How do you have your centering? Was it just thousands of hours in the Crucible? Was it experience from prior? How do you peek the lanes you peek? How do you understand the movements in this game?
I mean, I think it's undeniable that practice and experience is a huge factor. Like, there's no way that you play, like, I don't know, 10,000 hours of Crucible and then you still completely suck. So I mean, obviously playtime, okay, it's extremely unlikely. In 99.999% of the cases, like if you play the game like a decent amount and you have the right attitude about it, it will you'll improve steadily over time and recognize patterns. But like the thing is, okay, so if you play with the wrong mindset and you play with the wrong like approach, your improvement will be drastically slower. So like, if you just rage and blame OP abilities every time you die, you're obviously going to improve quite a lot slower compared to someone who's, has a level-headed approach, and when they die they say, how could I have done better? Because what I think a lot of people don't realize is that if you die in Crucible, like there's almost always something that you could have done better. There is some
Yeah.
bullshit, I know, like sometimes you die to something that was completely not your fault and it's literally just the game screwing up, but people seem to think that that's 90% of the time, but in reality it's like maybe 5% of the time that you get screwed over, and it's
Correct, yeah.
unavoidable. Like the vast majority of the time it's that you screwed up or you could have done something better. And people who realize that, and people who take time to think about it and say, how could I have actually done better, those are the people who will improve the fastest and ultimately be the best players.
Yep.
Preach. That's huge.
I would 100% agree with all of that. But going back to the original question about how do you acquire game sense, for me, the way I developed mine is very unique because of just the way I grew up. I grew up in the Middle East. We were not as technologically hooked up as you guys were back in 2005, 6, 7. So we were like, I learned to play Halo MLG playlists on like initially a dial-up connection and then an ADSL connection.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's very visceral reaction there. So 1 Mbps down, maybe 100 kilobytes per second up. So like dog-tiered connection. And I was playing on American servers because at the time there's some issues with European servers, and there certainly wasn't Middle Eastern servers. So I was 200, 300 millisecond lag. So I had to think about where I needed to be before I could actually be involved in a fight, because the only way I was going to win any fight in Halo was by being somewhere where somebody was going to be before they were. And so you learn about patterns, and you learn about player behavior, you learn about movement, you learn about the different ways you can handle any given situation before it happens. And that's sort of my origin story, and how I play the way I do is I think about things before they happen. And with any game I've ever played, the parameters of how that executes are different. Like you're playing COD, your window of opportunity is very small, the TTK is super fast. You have to think quickly and you have to think often. In Halo, you don't have to you don't have to think as quickly, but you certainly don't have to think as often because movement in Halo is generally slower. In Destiny 2, it very much is like a blend between Halo and COD in terms of the speed, and I find myself like for me, learning game sense in Destiny 2 was really hard, partially because of the speed and the uniqueness of it, but also because of all the variations of different things people can run, and accounting for different playstyles and creating different player profiles and molding putting the observed actions that they do into those player profiles to then inform your own sense of game sense. That's hard, and it takes a long time. But really, the most important thing to build your game sense, like if you had to distill it down to one thing, I would say ask yourself one question. What is the most likely thing that's going to happen next? And that's going to be informed by the situation you're in. If you're getting tagged by somebody by a hand cannon, you go around the corner, what do you think is going to happen next? They're going to chase you down or throw a grenade or something to finish you off, right? If you get shots on somebody else and they start running away, what do you think is going to happen next? They're going to keep running away. They're not going to re-peek the lane, generally. Are you going to chase them? Maybe. Maybe they were counting on you to chase them. Breaking line of sight on purpose so they can, snipe your head off when you come around the corner. These are the things that you ask yourself this question, you get the answers, and basically as you keep asking yourself the question and you keep getting the data from those different scenarios, you eventually get a pretty good knowledge library of how players perform in Crucible in different situations, on different maps, in different scenarios. And that becomes the bedrock of your game sense.
Hold forward and shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of Crucible.
Yeah, of course.
I very much agree with that. I think pattern recognition is something you touched on a little bit, and that's literally huge. The main thing I notice about someone who's new to the game, they could be a pro in another game, and the biggest thing that would stand out to me when they pick up Destiny is they have no idea what people are going to do. They get surprised when the most basic shit happens, Yeah. So if you can recognize what happens frequently and come up with an approach to counter what happens frequently, you're going to be way ahead of everyone else who doesn't know how to do that. Because, you know, if there's certain moves that just happen every single game, you know, like, I don't know, basic things like dodging hunters, rushing shotgunners. Like if you see that and you're able to recognize it and predict it and come up with a good strategy to counter it, you're just going to be miles ahead.
Absolutely. I love that. And I know I said that was the last question, but I had one more because I forgot to ask it earlier. How do you feel about aim trainers?
I play on controller, so I don't aim train. But I do think that, I mean, just from what I've heard based on other people's opinions and based on, you know, evidence and data and stuff, like I think that they're fine, but they are no replacement for actually just playing the game. You can't aim train and then expect to suddenly be, you know, OP. So I think it has a place, and I think it's, you know, a viable strategy to, you know, work on your aim and improve overall. But, you know, there's no replacement for just playing the actual game. And I mean, for controller, you can go into like PvE and, you know, focus on a certain skill or a certain part of your aim. And I mean, I guess now we have in the crafting area, we have that like a target range, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, where you shoot those like floaty things. And, you know, I think that's fine. I think, you know, you could probably, you know, go in there and test out your weapons and get a feel for the recoil patterns and all that kind of stuff. And I think that can help you, but it's not going to be like the number one thing that changes your performance.
Yeah, agreed. Because I mean, aim trainers is one thing, and I think that it's definitely a good tool to help people who are really, really, really struggling. But like Shadow says, play the game, you'll get better at it naturally. And the most important thing is that aiming is good, like just training your raw aim is good. Remember also that Destiny does do a lot of the heavy lifting for you in terms of aim assistance and bullet magnetism, and also aiming in a certain way without understanding the context of why you're aiming in a certain way is not something that you will learn well through aim trainers. Like that comes from playing the game.
100%.
I absolutely agree with that. Just don't tell Patty that, because Patty runs like 2 hours a day.
he's grinding the Kovacs.
He does. Every time.
I mean, more power to him. I mean, it does help, and, you know, he does enjoy it. So there's nothing wrong with that, you know.
Yeah,
he's power to Patty, but Patty plays all sorts of FPSs, so it's you know, if you're aiming training just for Destiny, you know, power to you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is the aim training does transfer better to a variety of things. You know, if I since I don't aim train, since I like exclusively play Destiny, I'd probably be like kind of bad at another FPS. But if you aim train, it's kind of like a foundational skill that applies to everything. So I think it's exceptionally good in that context.
For sure.
Shadow, man, I warm up on Destiny and then switch to Halo, and my shot is crisp.
Yeah.
It's very crisp. So I think you do pretty well playing another game. But at that note, let's get into the gameplay portion. Chat, if you'd like to jump in for the practical portion of the scrims, the way it works out is we pull in 4 or 5. What do we got? Hold on. We have 3. We pull